Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to do a little bit of an update on trinkets for Ret Paladins. This is mostly going to be about one in particular change that's different from my guide, but also giving a little bit of update on trinkets in general and where things end up playing out. Now, I've said for a while that I was not super comfortable with some of the simulations, and one of the things was trinkets. I didn't think necessarily they were all simulating correctly. This is one of them. Basically on the PTR, it performed very, very well. Like if you looked at your details breakdown, it would be very high. And that's the Elementium Pocket Anvil. So it performed quite well. And however, when they went live, simulations came out and it simulated very poorly. So it's just off the bat here. Let's just get this out of the way. The Elementium Pocket Anvil is like extremely good for single target DPS. So if you're a raider or you just want a really good single target trinket, the Elementium Pocket Anvil is a trinket that you want to go for now. It's from a very early, easy boss in the raid, the Amalgamation Chamber, so it is accessible to get. And yeah, you definitely want this if you're going for single target. It's quite good. The simulations are fixed now. You can simulate it yourself, and that's like the biggest thing. Now, this trinket's also decent for AoE, but it's just kind of there's a handful of trinkets that are pretty decent, and then there's some that are just like way better than the rest, essentially. So that's where we are there. So this is just kind of a mistake with the simulations. Not a big deal. These things happen all the time. Sometimes worse than others. This is a pretty big variance from where it was simming very badly, and it's actually like the best. So for single target purposes, if you're just going for your best in slot, right, you would want to get this like Elementium Pocket Anvil, and then still the Beacon of the Beyond. The other things we said about trinkets were largely correct. Like the Raid Horn's kind of like the best Mythic Plus trinket. Beacon of the Beyond is like the best trinket for all content, and then Echo of Neltharion's Call of Chaos is pretty good for single target, but it's very good for Mythic Plus as well. So like basically everything I said on those things from the guide is still correct. It's just kind of this change. Something else that I didn't mention in the guide, one of the things that I did know, but maybe I did mention it, but I wasn't really planning on doing it and using it. But your Storm Eater's Boon from the previous raid is still a very, very good trinket for like Mythic Plus. So this is the trinket that drops off of, I believe, the Tornado boss in Vault of Incarnate. So you would have to have this or go back and farm it. And that's the Storm Eater's Boon. So this is still extremely good in Mythic Plus if you have it. Now, of course, you stand still when you use this and you could die. You almost need to have like bubble up for this as a Ret Paladin. So this is still very, very good for Mythic Plus. And the other thing I wanted to point out too is if you're extremely min-maxy, and this could get nerfed, but this Heat-Bound Medallion is just a normal trinket that drops from like world content. And it actually is very, very strong. You can scale it up to 411, I think, using the crest and stuff. And this just drops off of like rare spawns. So it looks like Onari Plains and Azure Span from these Crucible Guardians and stuff. So these, this is Fire Assault. So these drop from the Fire Assault actually. So the Heat-Bound Medallion drops from the Fire Assault, and it is quite powerful. Now I think if everybody started using this for Mythic Plus for AoE, I think it might get nerfed. But I did want to throw it out here that it is very, very good. The Heat-Bound Medallion. But other than that, everything else is still mostly the same, and it has worked out kind of how we thought. So this is going to be a long video. I did just want to put that update out there. I meant to do this earlier this week, but I didn't have time. Luckily, I literally snagged the anvil, the pocket anvil or whatever from this week's kill as well. And I wanted to make the video that night or the night after, whatever, but I wasn't able to. But the Elementium Pocket Anvil, again, very good single target trinket. Grab this if you can, if you care about single target. If not, it's fine. Something else I wanted to point out that doesn't necessarily reflect in Sims is the Iridius Fragment is also pretty good for Mythic Plus, but you really have to game it a little bit. So if you don't like to really min-max, it's not maybe the trinket for you. I believe it drops in here, the Iridius Fragment. So Titan's Crumbling Power, increasing your strength by a large amount, reduced every time you use an ability. So like you want to use your Iridius Fragment like into your Final Reckoning, for example, right? And then Wake of Ashes directly after. And then, obviously you'd want to spend, but then you want a Divine Toll as well. Like you want to just power use this Iridius Fragment before the strength goes all the way down. It's extremely strong for that. And if you use your ability, if you use it at the right time, it can be quite strong. I don't know why it doesn't sim better. It's actually pretty good. for those big AoE bursts. It's not the best in the world, but it is quite good. So it's something you should keep in mind as well. Even though it doesn't simulate the best, it might not have you using stuff in the correct order or whatever to really maximize its value with all the strength up front. So it is something to keep in mind there. One last thing real quick, I guess, is the grapnel. I mentioned that this is a good trinket. It still is a solid single target trinket. Don't get me wrong, it's definitely something you can use in place until you get like a beacon, because now getting the pocket anvil should be pretty easy. It's early in the raid. The grapnel is still something you can use until you get a beacon, but it definitely there's definitely other trinkets too. So by no means should you think like, oh, I need to get a grapnel by any means. I don't think I ever said that you really needed to get one, but it is a good placeholder until you get a beacon or whatever, or maybe until you get an Ethereum's trinket. But it is what it is there. So let's just end the video now before I go on too long. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. And other than that, everybody have a good one.